Hello and welcome to this episode of the New Game Plus live record for television. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jason. I am your host for today. Jack is taking a couple of weeks off, which he's definitely earned, to go do his university work. So gambarimasu, Jack-san. Jack-kun, I guess we get away with Jack-kun. We're close. We're familiar. Don't worry. That's the end of the weeb shit. Don't worry. That's the end of it. I am joined, of course, by faces you have seen before. Miss Megan, who of course is one of the long-time regulars. Miss M, the new blood, and Carty, our I guess you've been around the well. No, who'd been around the longest? Who do we count out of you and Megan? Who's been around the longest? What do you reckon?
Just
How do we do
describe
that?
me as the other guy, and we'll be done with it.
The other
It's fine.
guy.
I
That's right.
reckon
Don't
Matt's
remind
done
me.
way more episodes than I have in total
Yes.
over that duration.
That is true. That is probably true. So
Despite my youthful appearance.
yes, yeah. Wow. Look. So we have obviously another big episode coming up. We have the news as per usual. We have Tony Hawk, the recent release of 1 and 2, and then we're going to have a chat about Tell Me Why. But for now, I guess it's best that we cover off the news. Now, what is the big news? The big news, of course, this week is Microsoft. Just Microsoft in general. Everything they've done this week, it's been their week. You would think at the end of last week it was all Sony. Sony came out there, they released their specs and their prices and all that kind of silliness. But Microsoft has now bought Bethesda they bought ZeniMax. So ZeniMax is, of course, the company that owns Bethesda. So they bought all the ZeniMax properties for $7.5 billion. That is $1 billion less than they paid for Skype. And I believe it's $500 million less than Disney paid for Marvel and Star Wars. So
Wow.
they are desperate for some Fallout action on the Microsoft platforms. So it does mean now that those properties become the property of Microsoft. So Doom, Wolfenstein, Fallout, all these kind of great games. But we're not 100% sure what it means for distro, because in the Sony press conference they had Deathloop, which is a Bethesda game, console exclusive to PS4. Now, is that going to remain console exclusive to PS4? Who knows? Because it's now under the Microsoft purview to do whatever they want. They have said that they'll change that on a case-by-case basis, and depending on how that goes, they'll obviously release games how they see is going to be the best fit for their platform. But it does mean obviously a lot of Bethesda games are going to come to Game Pass. I mean, is there anything that you guys are particularly excited for out of all of those games, or is it just a kind of a Microsoft going to Microsoft? Because no one expected this. This one was straight shot in the dark. No one would have called this in a million years.
It's a big deal. All I want to say is there going to be a new Fallout New Vegas 2 now that there's money coming into the funnels? I think that gamers out there are frothing at the bit of what the possibilities this could mean for future IP and just more content from their favorite developers. So for me personally, I don't play many of the Obsidian games or anything like that, so it's not really my cup of tea, but I think it's a massive step in the right direction. Yeah.
Anything from you other two, or it's kind of meh, like you don't really care too much?
Listening to Meg's marketing insights is just enough education for me.
Yeah.
I'm just excited if Fallout New Vegas comes to Game Pass, because this will be the Xbox Series X will be my first Xbox. So
Right.
if that
I
comes
believe
to Game
I want to
very
guess that it's already on there. I would nearly guess that it actually is. I either own it because I bought it. It's on sale all the time for like $7 with all the DLC, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Fallout New Vegas is on the Game Pass. I'm going to look that up while you guys are talking to the nice people.
Jace, you were saying that because of this acquisition that ZeniMax want to stay independent and sort of own their shit. Do you know much more about what that looks like?
So all we know is that they're going to keep Bethesda independent. Apparently, they're going to let them just do their thing, and that's kind of it. And then what will happen is they will, on a case-by-case basis, figure out whether they're going to release it on the next platform or like. So it looks like Todd's keeping his job, which to me is probably the most unfortunate part of it. Like I thought for sure Todd would get the ass. Yeah. Oh, look, I don't know, man. I just hope he doesn't make any more games. That's I'd be happy with that. But we don't know what happens with Pete Hines. We don't know what happens with the core main Bethesda team. They reckon they'll keep it the same, but I reckon they'll also offer a lot of parachutes for people who want to jump off Microsoft, the wild Microsoft ride that exists. We'll see. So Microsoft pre-orders have started. The Xbox Series X and Series S pre-orders have started in Australia, and now they've started internationally as well. EB site crashed. EB site logged you out of your account and then wouldn't let you put your password in. Just blew up. So if you got in and got it EB, congratulations, you are one of the lucky few, or you are a scalper bot. One of the two. They're the only two options that really have. JB site would not guarantee that you would get launch. A lot of Telstra's customers, obviously Telstra have the all access, so they would have gotten some priority service. They did Wave, so some of their Wave, so Wave 1 and Wave 2, some of their Wave 2 customers have been promoted to Wave 1. And then obviously Amazon, Target have oversold their orders, so if you did order through Target, don't be surprised if you get an email telling you that you won't be getting a launch console.
This isn't EB Games' first rodeo, and I'm actually shocked deep down that they don't have the infrastructure or a queuing system in place to facilitate the sheer amount of demand, especially when they sent out an EDM like 2 days before telling all customers of the release date and the time. Of course, we're going to be setting alarms at 8 o'clock in the morning to jump on, and by 8:01 it was gone. So I am flabbergasted about that.
Well, the scalpers are out in force now, so I reckon they just got scalper botted to death.
Sure.
Microsoft's definitely was in a position that actually gave people time to arrange when they were going to be doing their pre-orders. I mean, they set it about almost a fortnight in advance. So it kind of wasn't like anyone, like aside from the infrastructure problems with EB and stuff, I'll get to that in a sec. But it's not really kind of anyone's fault. They kind of gave people enough of an advantage and enough of a warning. However, Sony, on the other hand, they announced all the stuff that they did. I think it was around about last Thursday, I believe.
It was Friday morning. It was 6 a.m. Friday.
Yeah, 6 a.m. Friday morning. Dropped their stream and then suddenly went, we're going to be accepting pre-orders as soon as possible. EB opened up the floodgates despite telling people 2 to 3 weeks ago to sign up for their mailing list to give them enough details on what's going on. Everyone blew up on Australian Twitter going on about how they didn't get a chance to pre-order because EB just immediately opened the floodgates. JB and a lot of other outlets like allowed some time, and there was a lot of like local game stores that just straight up like their websites crashed because they couldn't deal with the traffic. It was a rush and a half, and it was absolutely messy. More so the Sony one, but the Microsoft one was still a mess. And let's say there was probably a few webmasters at EB having a very stern talking to for the last couple of days. It's messy. It's very messy.
I was going to say as well, I noticed with the PS5 pre-orders that they limited it to 2 per customer. And with the Xbox ones, it was per 1. And I think I'm not sure if that was just on EB, but I didn't understand why that was.
For now, what we will do, we will go to a quick break, and we'll come back after the break with a discussion of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I'm an old man. I don't know if I mentioned this. I'm the grandpa of the group, and that's fine. I've accepted. Well, no, actually Gerard, but that's a different. He's like the great grandpa. Like, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Now, I'm not convinced you guys would have the nostalgia for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that I did. Like, being the age that I was, like, you guys would have been just young enough where you would have missed the cusp of what made Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 kind of revolutionary. For a game that started as basically like a mod of the Armageddon video. Was it Armageddon video game? One of the video games with what's his name? Bruce Willis.
It was the same engine of Armageddon because it was done by Neversoft.
By Neversoft, correct. And so it was Bruce. The demo was Bruce Willis on a skateboard. They used the model and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's one of those. That's how old the game is. And obviously Neversoft, created this grand dynasty of games. And once you kind of hit, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, you start to go from like it got a little bit Call of Duty-ish. Unsurprisingly for Activision, one was good, one was bad, one was good, one was bad. Tony Hawk's Underground, then anything with Bam Margera, put it in the bin, then set the bin on fire, then throw the bin into space. So there was a real time when Tony Hawk, it was one game every year. It was pretty much guaranteed. And then Rock Band kind of became the one game every year, and then Call of Duty's obviously been that as well since. And so then they made Tony Hawk 5, and it sucked. It was so bad. It felt awful. It had no sense of momentum. The people who made it obviously had none of that nostalgia. So they just said, screw it, we're going to re-release 1 and 2. We're going to license as many of the old songs as we can. It's going to be basically the same levels with the level editor attached to it. And the thing with it is, you remember why Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 were such great games. But the problem is they are still definitely of their era. But they actually hold up surprisingly well. Megan, you've played it a little bit. You didn't have the nostalgia for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater as a kid. You've only just played the remaster like of 1. Is that correct?
Yes. I grew up with my brother smashing 1 and 2, and I'm watching vicariously. So when the remaster came out, I had to give it a go. I was blown away by, I guess, the level design and the uniqueness of, I guess, the whole aesthetic of every single, I guess, skate ramp, skate map. I don't really know what to describe it as, but how awesome they are, like aesthetically. And I didn't really mind, like, obviously not having the nostalgia for the track in the OG game. I felt the new soundtrack was refreshing and different and modern. Like, it's kind of felt like a new revamp in that sense.
Well, see, and that was the thing. So they brought back as many of the classic songs as they could, but there are a bunch of newer songs put on there as well, especially for 2. And I think that the thing with it is, like the later games for Tony Hawk became basically open world adventures in some ways. You could get off your board, you could climb buildings to access other things. This is still about just basically skateboard based momentum.
When like you customize your own character, made your avatar feel the way you wanted it to feel, was there an advantage on having like a pro skater versus a customized one in terms of like abilities and agility and things like that?
Well, like,
jump or things like that. Did they bring this into the new one?
So the original first one, I'm pretty convinced you couldn't customize skater. That was something that came from the later ones. But definitely because it became that thing of that they were grounded in the real world. Your guy wasn't. So you could just like, I don't ever want to grind, or I don't ever want to do X. The way I play, I don't use manuals, which you need manuals. So that's a bad example.
You kind of need to after the
just
game.
a little. Yeah, just a little bit, right? And so I don't want to focus on that. I'm more of a vert. Like I'd rather make sure I can land my spins, or I'd rather make sure I can land this. So you could definitely focus it more, but I think the thing with a lot of the existing names, especially in those days, was when Thrasher was so huge, and while skate cultures definitely survived, like lots of kids still skate and all that kind of stuff, it really hit that kind of that peak, that zenith in like that late 90s, early 2000s era, that it never has really hit again. But retro is cool again, and the game, luckily enough, is good enough that it carries as much of its quality through like as possible. Like, I mean, and you don't have any particular history with it. Like, is there something I could do to convince you to play? Like, what would you like to know about the series that I could say, hey, try it because of this reason?
Well, I was just going to ask, like, do you think because it kind of did come out in the zeitgeist of that like 90s era, do you think it will resonate with people now, like who haven't played it, like me?
I would say the main difference is that the way the games are played has changed. The way that it does time trials, the 2-minute blocks of time. It's not something that's like most people don't time trial or score chase like that, like they used to. And that's not to say everyone does it. Obviously, there's still some like thing. People like it shifted towards the more open world style game for Underground and beyond. As a reaction, the way players wanted to do it. So they didn't want to play it as just 2-minute time trials, because at some point that does start, these do start to get diminishing returns. And once they hit kind of 3 and 4, they were starting to hit the point where it's like, okay, by 3, you've got the formula pretty full, like spot on now. There's not really much more you can add to it. And so then, they started adding on these extra elements. And some of them were distracting and some of them are really good. So it really did just come down to, what you were looking for out of it. But that is the main thing I would say. If you don't mind going, cool, I want to nail this perfect run to get the high score. I want to get all of the bells in the school, or I want to get kill all the boxes in the warehouse, or whatever the case may be. But the worst thing is the multiplayer, because at launch, the multiplayer was literally, you could play local or you could play 8-person playlist. Yeah, but it's only 8-person playlist online. So you had to join a public session with 8 people. Like me and Rags, one of our Discord community members, we were just going to play some, we'll play together, we'll play some horse, or we'll play some, just muck around the maps or whatever the case may be. But every single time we got put into games with these 8 other people, and these guys had obviously played it heaps and blah blah blah. And so it's like, so we were okay at the game as casuals, as people who've played it from the old days. But these guys had obviously sat there and grinded it down. And like the best player of Tony Hawk in our group is probably Porky, Jordan, and even he was like, some of these guys are beating my scores, and his scores are like, I think he got to like top 114 in the world on some of the maps. So like he's definitely up there in like some of the best players of the Tony Hawk franchise. But yeah,
kind of like with those kinds
yeah.
of games with those high high skill ceilings, where it's like, you know, when you go and release a game like that or re-release a game like Tetris, for example, like there's no such thing as casual Tetris. Like the people that are interested in it are going to feed it hard.
Yeah, I gotta go hardcore. Exactly.
What I really want to highlight here is that this game, the remaster, actually reached 1 million units sold since its release on September 4, making it the fastest selling entry in the long-running franchise out of all the Tony Hawk games ever to exist. So I think that's a huge call out, especially during COVID and all these times where people are bored as hell. They've got heaps of free time and they want to relive that nostalgia. Like this game could not have come out at a better time.
Probably also because Tony Hawk fans are also probably really starved of a good Tony Hawk game, considering the latest two entries, Pro Skater 5 and
to this game. Like Tony Hawk's is out in the field. Like I've seen all these trailers of him doing like guerrilla marketing, like going out to the skate parks and like giving out skateboards to these kids that are like absolutely rocking it, and he's been hard at work.
Say again, Emily. You cut out there a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I love Tony Hawk's social media presence.
Yeah,
like
it's literally like, do you recognize who this person is today, kind of thing. Like he's got random stories on like airplanes and stuff, and you know, like there's the flight attendant looks in the overhead and there's 6 skateboards. He goes, oh, it's Tony Hawk on the flight, and he looks down and goes, yep, apparently he is.
Wasn't that
so
him or
like
the waitress that wasn't that him or the waitress that said like, you know, are you Tony Hawk? And he said yes, and she responds with why?
Yeah, it was why.
Part.
Yeah. We are now going to have a chat about Tell Me Why, which is the newest game from Don't Nod Studios, a French developer who may remember me and probably most well known for Life is Strange. Life is Strange, of course, the kind of the it's not really a walking simulator. It's not really a point-and-click adventure game. It's just a heavily narrative game. Like, reminds me a lot of, say, What Happened to Edith Finch and stuff like that. Megan, you've had the game obviously for a long time now. What are your thoughts on it? Because I know that you got the review code, so you got it a little bit before the rest of the world did. So you've had a bit of time to digest it. What are your thoughts?
Yes. I snatched that review code so quickly out of anyone at New Game Plus's hands because I am one of Donald's biggest fans. Essentially, this 3-episodic title came out in late August, and it was an Xbox Game Studios exclusives, which means that only Xbox and PC gamers got their little sweaty little hands on it. But essentially, it is one of my favorite genres of games, so I was extremely keen to jump in. And it's essentially nothing like Life is Strange in terms of pacing or storytelling or anything like that. So I really had to separate myself from my expectations of what I was expecting it to be and then what actually was delivered in front of me. And going in cold, really didn't. I tried to avoid all the reviews before or any other speculation around it before jumping in. But essentially, we're introduced to these twins, brother and sister, Allison and Tyler Ronan. They live in this small country town called Delos Crossing. And I love Delos Crossing, the American accent. Anyway, they reunite for the first time in about 10 years after the tragic passing of their mother's death like 10 years prior. And essentially, the family tragedy tore them apart, with Tyler believing that his identity as a transgender man plays a really integral part in what happened that fateful night. And I guess essentially Tyler's been away at this residential place called Fireweed, sort of copying the flack for that night that happened. And I'm really sensitive about how much to go into the plot for details, because that's like the most exciting part, is seeing that all unfold. But essentially, he reconnects with his sister to help her sell their family home. And as they're packing up their life and saying goodbye to this house, all their childhood memories actually start unpacking, and they discover that their memories aren't what they seem. So whenever the twins experience something emotional, like a memory trigger that they see, like something in the house that they pick up, they see these visions that they can both see at the same time. And it helps them to keep uncovering these unanswered questions about their mother and their past. Sure, they've done a deep dive on memories and how impactful people's pasts, presents, and futures on their own personal development. But the reason why they've done it this way is they've actually taken a really big, deep dive on mental illness and heaps of heavy, mature themes. So this isn't actually a whimsical, like dramatic adventure that Life is Strange delivered in a really beautiful way. This is actually a really realistic approach to serious topics around family violence, emotional trauma, as well as doing a really genuine, authentic representation of Indigenous Native American tribes, as well as queer and transgender representation. And I want to do like a bit of a statement first. So I don't want to butcher my description about this, but I really wanted to call out the fact that throughout this game, Don't Nod do a really great job of really warning the player that this game is going to be touching on some deep stuff. And I think the developers really called out that they hope that players out there identify that they're giving these twins realistic reactions that align with real world experiences compared to previous games in their portfolio. So like I said, it's not hyperbolic at all, but one thing I was really skeptical about at first is that this game would just become the transgender game. And it was one of the first and only times that a developer's gone into such deep representation of the queer and transgender people. And they could either butcher this or do it exceptionally well. And I'm really pleased to say that they've nailed it. And I wanted to call out that Xbox worked with LGBTQ organization called GLAAD, which has AA, GLAAD, to really make sure that Tyler was represented in a multi-dimensional way instead of just being like flat and just being there for the sake of ticking a box.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry, cut you off.
Yeah.
No. You go, Em. Yeah. Because I've got a question, but I'll let you go first if you got something to add.
Oh no, I was just saying as well, like I didn't want it to feel like they were just ticking that box. So it's nice to hear that they've really gone and the extra mile and put that effort in and approached it really gently.
Yes.
What I would say is especially when it comes to this kind of representation, obviously it's not something that necessarily like affects me in the sense that like, you know, it's obviously not something that I need to seek because, you know, it's like I'm like me and my ilk are always pretty represented. But I think the problem is, you know, what's considered deep writing when you're talking about trans characters, when you're talking about these experiences. And I don't buy the idea that you have to be like one or the other to write a character that's kind of off brand, but I think you need to be aware of the sensitivities around it. And so for them to have gone out of their way to do it, as opposed, like, I mean, it's the old trope, you know, even Last of Us, which, you know, to me, like Last of Us 2 is still a fantastic narrative and it handles a lot of its things very well. But it does kind of fall into a couple of the tropes. And while it's obviously tropes aren't inherently bad, this is the other thing to remember, but tropes can hide lazy writing. And as long as the writing and the quality of the characterization matches whatever you're trying to say, it's okay for you to write outside your comfort zone, but you just can't be you really can't be insensitive to the idea of, I don't know this experience, I'm just going to guess. It's going to be, I'll just guess. It'll be fine, same difference, like whatever. You know, like, you know, the old joke is bury your gays. Like you have them do the emotional attachment, then you kill them off. And so The Last of Us comes close to falling down that trap. I don't think it goes quite as bad as it could have, but yeah, it's. I'm glad that you've said that they've actually gone out of their way to make sure it's not that kind of, you know, stereotypical kind of hand wave that we were used to, especially in the early days of gaming. If you were to recommend it to someone, Megan, what would you say is the key thing that tell me why does that you think would sell people on playing the video game?
There's a lot of elements to this game and that make it absolutely beautiful and a must play, especially if you're already fans of the narrative adventure genre. This is a must pick up regardless of your taste and things like that. I think it's an incredible addition to that genre that hasn't really been dabbled in for a while since Life is Strange. But essentially, the environmental design and sound effects are killer. This is one of the most beautifully cinematic games I've ever seen in my life. And because of the slow pace of the game itself, more so than any other Don't Nod title, it actually gives the player so many opportunities to sit and think and ponder so they can really digest all their intensive decision making they've been doing all along these sensitive and mature themes. So it's been a pleasure to sit and look at small town Alaska and those snowy mountains, those beautiful frozen lakes and bushy areas more than I ever expected. I really loved seeing and comparing my own choices at the end of every chapter to compared to all the other players out there in the universe that have also done it. So I think that it does play to its strengths, and it is absolutely a must play for sure.
All right. On that note, we are going to pack it in to end the show. Yeah, do not forget to check out newgameplus.tv, all of our Instagram, all of our socials at newgameplus.tv if you want more of our content. Thank you for watching. We will see you next Thursday for the show record. Hang around for some Among Us, and we'll see you later.